Woman finds a baby abandoned at her door. 44 years later she tells what happened. David was a normal 10-year-old with parents who showered him with all the love and affection they had. Despite all the luxuries, he was often belittled by his peers for how he looked. At the time, David didn't realize why people treated him that way until he finally decided to ask his mom. It might have been better he wouldn't learn the truth, as what David hears next left him completely shattered. But that wasn't it. Only 44 years later, David finally realizes the truth. In 1977, Edith was 27 years old, living with her husband in a beautiful house with a pretty porch and a green garden patch. Both of them loved each other immensely and lived happy lives. It seemed like they were perfect for each other. A few years had passed since their marriage, but they still had not engaged in a discussion about kids. Was there a particular reason for that? Their work lives kept them busy, and they spent the remaining free time socializing with friends and family. Both of them did see kids in their future, but none of them had initiated a discussion yet. Having a kid was after all a big responsibility. Edith often wondered if she would make a good mother and would the couple be able to raise a kid together. She had some serious concerns about that. When Edith discussed these self-doubts with her friends and close family members, everybody assured her that she would be a great mother. She has everything a wonderful mom has and is capable of giving a child love, care, affection, and safety. They pushed her to take this to her husband and they can start planning a baby soon. She was ready for that step. Was her husband ready though? Edith finally decided to have a conversation with her husband. She was not scared but just a little anxious because this is after all a very important life decision. One day when both of them were back from work, Edith finally had the conversation with her husband and was pleased to know that he also wants to have a baby. Little did they know that God has different plans for them. Edith woke up one fateful day unknown to the fact that a momentous event is going to take place in her life. Edith and her husband finished their morning routine and left for work. Both of them had long working hours and often reached home at different hours. Edith usually arrived home before her husband. That day in 1977 when she reached back home, there was a greatly surprise by her door. Edith parked her car in the driveway, looked for her keys in the bag, and started walking towards her front door. Just when she was about to open her front door, she glanced at the footmat and found a little basket lying there. She got instantly curious about this little bundle. So, she stooped down and removed the blanket aside to see what was inside. The moment she did that, Edith couldn't believe what she saw in front of her eyes. She saw a very tiny baby curled up inside the blanket peeking at her with its tiny blue eyes. Edith's reflex was to reach out for the baby and take it in her hands. Numerous questions popped inside her head. Who was this baby? Who left it here? Was it a girl or a boy? What should she do next? Should she call her husband? Should she call the police? There were so many questions and the answer only time could tell. Edith then decided to first calm herself down and then think of an action plan. She cradled the baby in her arms and sat on the porch swing adjacent to the front door. What should I do now? She wondered. In her head, she was trying to think of what to do next, but she just could not take her eyes off the baby. She kept looking at its tiny blue eyes, tiny nose sitting atop small pink lips, its small hands clutching her finger, and small feet kicking randomly inside the blanket. Despite the bizarre situation, she felt calm and peaceful holding the baby in her arms. She did, after all, have maternal instincts which she was so doubtful about. She had no idea how much time had passed with her holding the baby in her arms sitting on the porch swing. After a while she heard another car in the driveway. Her husband had returned home from work. He walked up to the house and was surprised to see Edith sitting on the porch swing in her work clothes, holding a tiny human in her hands. He asked her where the baby came from and Edith filled him in about what happened the past 1 hour. The baby did not only have an effect on Edith only, but her husband also. The moment he held the baby he did not want to let it go. It was as if this was always meant to happen, a unique connection. But they knew the wise thing would be to inform the police. What if somebody was looking for this baby? However, deep down Edith had already decided that she wants to adopt the baby. Both of them calmed down and decided to call the police. The police came and noted all Edith and her husband had to say. They decided to accompany the baby to the police station for further investigation, as the duo didn't want to leave the baby alone for even a second. After hours of the police investigation, it was revealed that a mother abandoned her baby in Edith's footsteps and now the baby would have to go into foster care. The idea of imagining this beautiful little human in foster care broke Edith's heart into a million pieces. Edith wanted to adopt the tiny human and decided to run the idea through her husband. Just like always, he was supportive of Edith's decision. They did not delay for even a second more and officially applied to adopt the baby boy who ended up in their life magically. She knew she wanted to protect him deep down the moment she laid her eyes on him. After adopting the baby, the next step was to name the baby. Edith named him David and kickstarted the beautiful journey of raising a tiny human with her husband. They couldn't wait to raise him as their son and create beautiful memories together which will last them a lifetime. David couldn't have a more loving set of parents. David was a very happy child and loved his parents immensely. He grew up to be smart, loving, and charming. All the family and friends of Edith and her husband were great fans of David. He regularly spent time with his grandparents and relatives without knowing he was adopted. Young adult kids have sharp minds and pick on minute things. At the tender age of 12, consciously and unconsciously David began having some doubts. Why do I look different from my parents? Why is my skin tone different? Why don't I sound like my parents? His classmate made things more difficult for him by constantly teasing him about having a different skin tone from his parents, hence being adopted. The constant teasing took its toll on David and Edith began to see some changes in his behavior. Mothers can always read their child's mind and Edith was sure that David is going through something. Edith urged David to discuss with her what was wrong and finally, he told her what his classmates had been saying. What Edith told him next came as a big shock for the little guy. Edith decided not to keep it a secret anymore and questioned David's intelligence. She told him that he was adopted, but that she had adopted him from a hospital and not that she found him in front of her door. She knew this can severely hamper a young child's mental health and hence told him half-truth. David was extremely shocked to know that what his classmates teased him about is indeed true. Edith did not let this truth affect David in any way. David gradually understood that he is adopted, but his parents love him sincerely and do their best to be good parents to him. The half-truth not only solved David's dilemma and doubts, but also brought the family close together. Of course, despite everything David loved his parents and was also very thankful for giving him the life he had. The topic of David being adopted never came up again. All three family members loved and respected each other and lived in absolute harmony. It felt as if time flew by because David was soon graduating his college. Some more years passed. David grew up to be a smart and successful person who built a life of his own. He shifted away from home, but still regularly came back home to visit and spend time with his parents. Edith loved having him back and cooked all of his favorite dishes whenever she could. When David was 24 years old, he accidentally heard the whole truth. This happened during a family barbecue party hosted by one of his uncles. No wonder, the truth completely shattered David. The whole family was enjoying spending time with each other and David was sitting with his uncle. His uncle, unaware of the fact that David knows only half-truth about his birth, blurted out the real truth that he was abandoned by his biological mother and Edith found him on her doorstep. This again came as a shock to David and he decided to clear this out with his mom. Upon hearing David's sudden questioning spree, Edith decided it was time to finally reveal what really happened. So, she confirmed that she indeed found him on her doorstep one day after she came back from home. David inquired why she didn't tell him the truth before and she shared her fears with him. She was scared of abandonment issues David might develop if he learned the truth at a very tender age. Being the understanding and sensitive person he was, David understood his mother's concerns instantly. He did not fight her, nor did he hold any grudges against her. He was still thankful to both Edith and her husband for taking him in and giving him a beautiful life. He genuinely believed he owes all his success to both his adoptive parents. Always remembering how much his parents loved him and appreciated him, David did not back off when the time came for him to take care of his parents. Once they grew old, he took care of his parents and protected them just the way they protected him. Sadly, a sudden spree of illness made his dad so weak that he couldn't continue fighting. A few months down the line, his father bid adieu to the mortal world. Of course, this shattered Edith. She couldn't believe what happened. Seeing his mom in such a bad state, David vowed that his mom would never have to live alone. Because he was adopted himself, David always reflects on the importance of adoption. People who find out that they are adoptive should not be sad, but rather be happy and thank their stars. Not everybody is lucky to have a loving set of parents who give them all luxuries, unconditionally. Nothing can be more meaningful than adopting and giving somebody the gift of life. Edith did the same, and David realized all the sacrifices his mother made down the lines. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more.